exploring the Potomac Highlands in West Virginia. Our first stop was Smoke Hole Caverns, where we got to do a really cool cavern tour. We've actually never done one of those before, so it was really cool to see.
It's like we're going into Mordor. Like
the gates to the mines of Moria.
Gates to the mines of Moria. Oh my gosh, this is literally the mines of Moria.
Smoke Hole Caverns has a fascinating history. The name Smoke Hole comes from stories of the Seneca tribe using the front section of the caverns to smoke wild game. The caverns were used by both Union and Confederate soldiers during the Civil War, and early settlers distilled whiskey there during Prohibition. Smoke Hole Caverns features diverse geological formations dating back millions of years. While Smoke Hole features an underground lake and waterfall, the caverns were formed by rainwater picking up carbonic acid and slowly dissolving the limestone.
This is called flowstone. So water came through the rocks and collected minerals, and as it flows over the edge, it hardens. Now you're going to feel these walls as you come by. On both sides, it's coated in soapstone, and that's why we're not seeing formations yet. It kind of feels like clay or maybe a wet bar of soap. All right, follow me. Well, limestone's much harder, and it's full of minerals, and that's why you get a lot of formations out of it. The soapstone is really soft and it doesn't adhere to it.
Smoke Hole is considered an active cave with 1 cubic inch of new deposits about the size of an ice cube, accumulating every 120 years. Long before this landlocked region was mountainous, it was a sea where sediment, fossils, and shells accumulated in layers. The tectonic forces that created the Appalachian Mountains caused these layered rock formations to rotate 90 degrees.
So what are we walking on right now?
We're walking on the side.
The incredible room of 1,000,000 stalactites features the second highest ceiling of any cavern in the eastern U.S. and towers 274 feet above the floor. This room also features the world's largest ribbon stalactite, formed by mineral-laden water dripping from the cave ceiling for millions of years. This impressive feature weighs in at 2.5 tons. This intricate room, called the Queen's Room, has what is believed to be the oldest formation in the cavern, dating back more than 13 million years.
It's so cool in here, literally and figuratively.
So up here and to your right, you will find our perfect column. This is where the stalactite and stalagmite meet in the middle.
We continued our exploration of the area's geology with a visit to an above-ground wonder, Seneca Rocks. We've made it to Seneca Rocks, which is a really neat geological feature that's part of the Monongahela National Forest. And the National Forest encompasses almost 1 million acres of forest in West Virginia. Before we get started on our hike, we decided to look on the geocaching app to see if there were any caches nearby. And one of the caches actually brought us to this plaque that talks about the mountain division of the infantry, where some soldiers came here during World War II to be trained. And in this geocache, it's kind of special because it first brought us to this plaque
where it gives us a puzzle where we have to figure out the coordinates for another location where the actual geocache box is located. So we had to use some of the numbers off of this plaque to calculate the coordinates for the other geocache so we can try to find that later. So that's kind of one of the fun things that people will do with geocaching, kind of make it more like a puzzle that you have to like figure out where you have to go next. So we found the second part of that multiple cache where we had to figure out the coordinates. And it's considered a micro cache, so this is like a key holder type thing. And we'll have to, this is also a bring your own pen situation.
So we're about to start our hike up the Seneca Rocks trail, and we're starting here at the parking lot, and then we're going to wind all the way up here, do a bunch of switchbacks, and then go over to a viewing area. And what's really cool about Seneca Rocks is you actually can climb the rocks, but you need a lot of experience, and so they have a nice viewing area where you can just enjoy if you would prefer just to hike up the mountain instead. So this trail is about 2.5 miles in and out, so we're going to get started on our hike and make our way up to Seneca Rocks. We just started our ascent up Seneca Rocks hiking trail, and in this part of the forest you can see there are a lot of rocks that have been deposited, and these rocks have actually come off the mountain. Freezing and thawing of water over time breaks the rocks apart and they tumble down the mountain. So a lot of the rocks are actually deposited in this area, and it looks really neat. You can see that there's moss and lichens growing over the rocks. I'm sure they make really nice habitats for different animals. So as we go up, we're going to get to see even more of these rocks, I think.
Here's an example of one of the parts of the trail that's like a switchback. So there are about like 4 or 5 of these on our way up. Hike update. We're probably about halfway at this point. It's a little steep, a little hot, a little humid, but we're managing.
Yeah, it's been neat to see how the landscape is changing as you walk. Like sometimes you'll walk through a more forested area. Back there kind of opened up a little bit and you can see some of the layers in the rock, which is really cool.
And now, like how we saw those big rocks before, there's like a lot of really small ones now up towards the top, which is kind of cool.
And one of the signs was talking about how all of these rocks are all trying to make their way downhill. Eventually gravity is working with them, and eventually they'll make it down into one of the rivers where they will be eroded to be really nice and smooth.
One of the really cool things about the rock formations at Seneca Rocks is that the rocks were formed as part of the seabed. So when the rocks were forming, they were essentially sediment that was being pressed together, creating these really pretty layers. And today you can actually see the layers, except that they're kind of more like vertical. And actually, because of plate tectonics, the way that this mountain formed is that these rocks were originally laying 90 degrees on their sides, and now they're 90 degrees flipped and they're kind of in this like more vertical position, and you can see the layers of how they originally would have been before the plate tectonics moved them. And this was also something that we saw when we were at the caverns earlier. Some of the rocks, you could see that they would have originally have been part of the floor, but now they're part of the walls of the caves. Official logbook replacement, a couple of replacements, a lot of replacement books.
Must be pretty popular.
Must be. So now we know why there's so many logbooks, because it was hidden in 2003. Like, that's insane. So like this is probably a new logbook from 2009. So So we're making our descent back down from the top of Seneca Rocks, and the hike was definitely worth it. The view up there was really beautiful. You could see for like, I don't know how far.
Yeah, you could see farmlands
Yeah.
and the river below. You could see the nature center. It was really pretty. Very
Yeah.
windy up here,
Yeah,
which
really
is nice.
windy.
Really nice to have
Yeah.
after a long
Yeah.
uphill hike.
Yeah, and the rocks were really cool to see up close, especially because of the way that like they're supposed to be turned and stuff like that. That looked really cool. Now we get to make the hike back down. You can see the overlook that we were standing on from the top all the way from down here, and it's crazy to think that we were all the way up there just 40 minutes ago.
So in addition to all of the beautiful natural features of Seneca Rocks, there's also a lot of history here too. Some of the signs and exhibits inside the Nature Center talk about archaeology and the history of Native American people who have lived here for thousands of years. This is also a historic site. This is a cabin that was originally built by some of the settlers in the area, and I can't imagine how amazing it would be to build a cabin here and have this view outside your window. It would be just incredible. They have exhibits inside the house, and they also have some gardens and different interpretive signs that you can enjoy to learn about the history of people in this area.
Made it back down to the bottom from the Seneca Rocks trail, and it was really, really beautiful hike today. I'm glad we got to do that.
It was, yeah. Seneca Rocks is like a must-see for West Virginia, so we really loved the hike up to the top of the mountain. We loved the nature center that they have here, where you can see all kinds of exhibits. They do classes and activities too on certain days.
Today was Smokey the Bear's birthday.
Yeah,
75th birthday?
Yep, and
So
they're having a birthday party for him tomorrow, which
That's
sounds like
cute.
it's really
Yeah.
cute. Yeah. So we're gonna go try to explore some other places and then head over to Davis, West Virginia to check into our B&B.
Yeah. So we'll see you soon.
We're excited to say that we have made it to Dolly Sods Wilderness. This is a really cool natural feature here on what's called the Allegheny Front. This area is actually a plateau. So while we've been passing a lot of rolling mountains and even some of the exposed rock crags like by Seneca Rock, here it's almost completely flat at the top, and it has a very different ecosystem too. So this is called a subalpine ecosystem. So you have different types of vegetation, the trees grow differently, you have a lot more pines in this area, and you'll have different wildlife too. Taking pictures and looking at the scenic views, and of course also looking at the natural landscape, like these beautiful trees that you see around me. And what's really cool about these trees is you'll see that the branches are kind of only growing on one side, and that's because of the wind. You probably hear the wind right now, and the wind is just blowing right over this plateau. It's nice and cool outside right now, and it's actually causing the tree branches to grow only in one direction. So that's a really neat thing that you can see if you come up to Dolly Sods. Here we could see this rocky portion of the top of this part of the mountain, and now we've got a completely different view of it. Before we were looking up at it, now we're looking down at it. You can really see the terrain of the Appalachian Mountains here. It's so cool.
I can't believe how like pretty and beautiful this place is, like a different kind of ecosystem, a different kind of climate up here that you don't see anywhere else. But the views were insane. Like when I first walked over to the edge, I was just like, it was like breathtaking, honestly. So this is the road that we're on for 5 miles. And it was going like straight up at one point. But we made it, and we're gonna make it down. Everything's fine. Been great for the drive, thank you.
Okay, so it's a few hours later and we have made it to Davis. We checked into our B&B, which is the Bright Morning Inn.
And it's so cute.
It's very cute, yes. And we went out to dinner at Sirianni's and we got pizza and it was delicious.
It was really good. It was like that good thin crust pizza that's like perfectly crunchy.
Yeah,
solid.
Very, very good. And then we went out to Blackwater Falls State Park, and there we did a night photography class. So there was a photographer there, and he showed us all these techniques about how to use long exposure to take pictures of the stars.
Yeah, we got some really good ones.
Yeah, we got to see some meteors too. We didn't quite get pictures of them, but we just get to see them, which was really
this
nice.
week in this area of the country, it's a meteor shower, so it's like prime time to see that kind of stuff. So
yeah,
I was glad we were able to see at least one. Because sometimes you go out and you see nothing. So
definitely, and there was fog moving over the lake, which looked really nice. And so we'll actually be going back out to Blackwater Falls State Park tomorrow to hike and to see some of the scenic vistas and the waterfalls. So we're really excited about that.
yep. So we'll see you tomorrow.